Today we're going to talk about racecraft. Hello race drivers, it's Enzo with the Race Driver Coach Show. Today's topic is something I love to talk about, love to coach. It's overtaking. So it is racecraft, but specifically overtaking, which is really important. It's really important for your career because people are inspired by somebody who can overtake. And it's really important for your results because you can't always qualify pole position, right? So very often you have to force yourself to be good in this area. Many drivers are not. Yeah, they can overtake, they do okay, but they're not known for it. It's not their label, their reputation of that guy behind, when he's behind you, or that gal when they're behind you, they're coming through. Now, I pretty much made this a priority for me when I was driving because I wasn't always in the best car. So on lap one, it was my chance to overtake as many people as I could, as many drivers as I could, because I knew once the race settled down, their cars were too quick and they'd pull away. So I was like, right, if I can get 3 of them on the very first lap and then just defend like mad for the rest of the race. That's a strategy sometimes depending on the track. So I made it really important to be switched on at the start of a race and make sure that I'm awake and I'm pouncing when most drivers are still asleep at the start of the race or are a bit nervous and hesitating. I took advantage of them. And also I had a rule that if I'm behind somebody for more than 1 lap, well, I just didn't let it happen. My rule was to get past them within a lap. Obviously, I couldn't do it all the time because you get tricky drivers that are very good at defending sometimes, or their car's better in certain places that didn't help the overtaking manoeuvres. But I just made it, I put that on myself saying, right, I've got to unlock this driver. I've got to figure out what they're like, where they're weak, and pounce as soon as possible because I want to arrive on the scene behind a car, get done, and move on. That was kind of my mindset. And actually, when I went into coaching, it's still the way I teach drivers to do the same, if that makes sense. I teach them the same way that I approach racing. So I make racecraft, I make overtaking a massive priority. That's why you see a lot of my drivers, they do make really good overtaking maneuvers. That's because we talk about it. We analyze how you can do it at this track. We go on the simulator and we train that side of it. We practice, right, there's Alton Park coming up or wherever. Let's get on the sim. Let's do a session of just pure racecraft, overtaking, defending, how you can manipulate the car in front, put them off, distract them. It's part of the preparation that I do with drivers. So when they get to the track, they're not just thinking of, oh, I've got to drive well. When it comes to race time, they're going to pull some of these moves that we did before. So this is kind of my way of doing that with you, actually. So there's 4 overtaking maneuvers that we're going to talk about today. Maneuver number 1 is called the dummy. Now the dummy is pretty much where, you've heard of this, right? You've seen it. You come in behind a driver, you're following a driver, you've got the run on them, and you make a slight move either way in order to cause that driver to block you, to go the same way as you. And as soon as they do that, you change your mind and go the other way. Here's the video clip to show what I'm on about. So this Toyota 86, I'm in the yellow one, my driver's in the red one, and I move to the left slightly, and as soon as I see that driver moving to the left, I'll dart to the right and just go on the inside. Simple as that. And this kind of move, you can see it from the inside as well, this kind of move works time and time again. It's for you to force the car in front or put them where you want them, which is really how overtaking is done, right? You do something that makes them go exactly where you want them to go. Overtaking maneuver number 2 is called the feint. Now in boxing, your feint is when you kind of deceive the person in front by making them think you're going to throw a certain jab, but you don't. You throw the other, the hook or whatever, or an uppercut. So it's tricking them. Now, I've called it the feint because it's similar like that in a car. When you're in a fight with somebody in the front, you've got to understand that their vision is not great. All they can see is through a little mirror. So you've got to use the blind spot a little bit. Put yourself there, make them wonder where you are. Freak them out by thinking, oh, is he going on the inside or not? I don't know where he is. And just making someone think like that when they're in front, in the braking area of an important corner. It's interesting how they either lock up, they go wide, or they capitulate, and because they don't know where you are and they think you're going to go on the inside. So I'm coming towards this corner. Now, I'm not thinking about putting a move on, by the way. All I'm going to do is brake to the inside, making that car in front think I'm going to go for it. And in doing so, they slightly freak out, they release the brake, and then they go too wide, and then I'm through. Like, you're just darting at them, but you're not even thinking about going. And if they do turn in, it's all right, because you're in control. You're not going to hit them. You're just putting yourself there in the blind spot constantly. And when you've got someone doing that to you from behind, it winds you up. It makes it really hard for you to focus forward because they're constantly just flashing your mirror. That's the feint. And it can set things up as well, right? So, like, look at this F4 one. I'll go for the feint on the inside into Brooklands. No intention of really going for a move, but that car then, that driver in front slightly freaks out and thinks I better leave him some room because I don't know where he is. In leaving me room, now they're wide. They're too wide and then too tight for the next corner. And in doing that, they overshoot and I go for the inside. So you can use a feint to really set up what you're thinking of in the next corner as well. So a feint's cool. It's just using the blind spots, making them think you're going to do something when you're actually not. I'm just going in at a different angle. But because they just see the flash in the mirror, it spooks them. Maneuver number 3 is the Verstappen elbow. But this is where you go into a corner, go in the inside of a driver, and you're taking a bit too much speed. So then you go wide and you force that driver to back out. You kind of like elbowing them without touching them. So you overspeed the corner and it puts them in a situation where they're like, I'm stuck and I better back out and give you it. If you want it that much, guy, you have it. And you saw Verstappen do it a lot to Hamilton. Especially, the last lap when he won the World Championship, he did it. He just fired it in, forced Hamilton wide, so he couldn't do much about it, and then he had it. And it is very effective, but if you're against somebody who doesn't like you doing it to them, and they try and stay around the outside, a bit like what Hamilton would do to Verstappen, then it ends up in an accident quite often. But still, if you're in a tin top, if you're in something that's closed wheel, you can slightly rub in as racing, touch them, and then you claim that corner. You both miss the apex because you're forcing them out wide, but it's a great technique. Here, using the Toyota 86 again, at Snetterton, under the bridge, you can see this driver does it to me. They go in with a little bit too much speed, force themselves, now they're off the line. They're not even on the correct line anymore, but they've stopped me from going around the outside. That is how you do it. So it's basically you being obnoxious, but it's a great move. When someone does it to you, you kind of just have to give them it, like, okay, fair play, you've just done that, and it's legal, as long as you don't fire straight into them. And lastly, number 4, this manoeuvre is called the switchback. Straight to the example, look at this hairpin. The switchback is when you come to a corner, it's kind of like a hairpin or a sharp one, could be a right angle, and the person on the inside that's overtaking you, you hold them a bit tight on the way in, so they're really on the tight line onto this corner. It's making it very difficult for them. Then just as you start braking, you come back out towards the normal line. For them, it's probably too late to even change, so they're committed to that tight line. And then if they slightly overshoot the apex because they're going in so tight, a bit like what we saw in Luffield on that clip, you can get in and do the switchback on them. Now, this is obviously something that works so often. And it's just, again, you're trying to put that person, that other person, that driver, in a particular part of the track where they're likely to make a mistake. That's all it is. If you're really struggling, it's not like a straightforward dive on the inside, see you later. It's like, right, I've got to get this driver into positions, put them on the dirty side of the track on the outside so they lose grip, make them, force them, or gently encourage them to go onto the exit curb where it's bouncy and they start to lose drive or get wheel spin. All these things are about putting drivers in position so you can manipulate and take advantage of them, should I say. Now, it's easy to defend this. If you know a driver's pretty much thinking about a switchback, then you think to yourself, okay, I'm still going to go to the inside, but I'm not going to lose the apex. And this is what I managed to do here. I went on the inside of him, as you can see. He opened it up fully, thinking I'm going to get the switch back here. But then I just waited. I made sure I got the apex and waited on the apex for when he caught up with me. And then I accelerated as he lifted. I basically blocked the move by holding the apex as much as I could and then not putting the power on until it was way late. I should have put the power on earlier, but then he would have got me coming off, so I had to block him. So obviously the switchback, when it's being done to you, you can defend against it. So these are my 4 favourite ones that I just took from the clips from the recent coaching sessions. So I hope that these help you. And what's interesting is I've nearly got pretty much all 4 in a series of 3-4 corners on this one video. So think back to these 4 manoeuvres. First of all, I went for the dummy, but he didn't fall for it. And I was a bit too far away, so I thought, okay, I can't do the dummy, but I'll do the feint. So then I went for the inside basically in his blind spot. So he's wondering where I am, and he's thinking about me, and that causes then for him to put the power down too early and make a mistake. So I'll get him on the exit now, and here we go. So I've got the run on him now. Then that started to unlock what's going to happen next. So then we run down the crane of curves, and this is where I do the Verstappen elbow slightly. I take in a bit too much speed, force him wide, so now he's on the dirty side. Now I was thinking at this point, let's go for a switchback. Let's make him go in deep and tight, so then he washes out and I'll get him on the exit because I'll get on the power early. But it didn't quite work that way. He was clever. He broke early enough to not overshoot. So I thought, okay, you're braking early, we're going to have to change it up. So the way I changed it up was I just drove around the outside. So when you think about it, if you're going to go for a switchback and someone does defend it by holding onto the apex and they slow it down, they've just opened up the outside of the track, so you feel that as well. It's great how you can see it all. Again here, I was going to go for the dummy, didn't work, feint. Then down to the crane of curves, Verstappen elbow, thinking about the switchback, didn't work, went round the outside. And that's pretty much all of them together, right? I didn't quite get the switchback, of course, but still, it just shows this is how you got to be thinking when you're in a race all the time. It's like a fight, right? Game of chess, yes, but it's like a fight because they throw you a certain punch, you've got to parry it and then come back with your answer. That's what overtaking's like. So treat your races like fights. Don't have a fight, don't actually punch them, but you know what I mean. Treat it like a fight where it's strategic, you understand what to do, and prep all of this way before you go to the race weekend.